Get ready for some chess magic. Like and subscribe to stay connected. Control of the center with effort, preparing to develop other pieces, and creating space for the knight to potentially attack the pawn on f5.
Control of the center with effort, preparing to develop other pieces and potentially creating space for the bishop on c4.
Developing the knight to a strong central square, preparing to control the center and potentially attacking black's knight on c6, while also supporting the pawn on f4.
Developing the knight to a strong central square, supporting the pawn on pawn to d5 and preparing to control the pawn to d5 square, while also eyeing the pawn to d4 pawn and potentially putting pressure on black's position.
Bishop to b5.
Pawn to a6 is the best move.
Bishop to a4.
Knight to f6 is the best move.
Kingside castle.
Pawn to b5.
Preparing to develop the queenside pieces and controlling the pawn to d5 square, bishop to b3 is a solid choice, supporting the central pawn structure and setting up for potential pawn breaks on the queenside.
Pawn to d6.
Preparing to develop the queenside pieces, supporting the pawn on f4 and controlling the pawn to d5 square, while also slightly weakening the queenside pawn structure.
Bishop to e7 is best. This develops a bishop.
Rook to a1.
Castling kingside, connecting the rooks and safeguarding the king, while also preparing to develop the queenside pieces and controlling the d-file.
Pawn to h3.
Bishop to e6 is best. This offers a trade. This develops a bishop.
Control of the center with d4, preparing to develop other pieces and putting pressure on black's position. The Kholmov variation of the Ruy Lopez is a solid choice, aiming to quickly develop the rest of the pieces and launch a pawn storm on the queenside.
I played bishop captures on b3 to gain a strong initiative and control of the queenside, pinning black's knight on pawn to b7 and preparing to develop other pieces. This move also opens up the b-file for my rook to potentially use later.
Queen captures on b3.
Rook to e8 is excellent. Queen to d7 is best. This defends the knight on c6.
I played pawn to a4 to challenge black's pawn structure and prepare for potential pawn breaks on the queenside. This move also pins black's knight on f5, making it difficult for them to maneuver.
Knight to f5.
Queen to c2 is the best move.
Bishop to f8.
Bishop to g5 is a strong move attacking black's kingside pawn structure and preparing to develop the rest of the pieces. It also pins black's knight on f6, putting pressure on the kingside.
Preparing to develop the kingside, pawn to h6 attacks the bishop on g5, gaining a small advantage and preparing to potentially push pawn to d5 in the future.
Bishop to h4.
I played pawn to g5 to challenge black's kingside pawn structure and create a potential weakness on the kingside. This move also prepares to develop the kingside pieces and puts pressure on black's position.
Bishop to g3 is best.
Knight to c6 is the best move.
I played bishop to h2 to prepare for the potential pin on the knight on f4, while also eyeing the pawn on g5, which could become a weakness if not addressed. This move also helps to control the kingside and prepares for a potential kingside attack.
Knight to f4 is good. This offers a trade. Knight to c6 is best.
I played knight to f3 to prepare for the potential pawn storm on the queenside, pinning the knight on pawn to b5 and supporting the central pawn structure. This move also opens up the f-file for potential rook activity.
Queen to g7 is excellent. Knight to c4 is best. This offers a trade.
Pawn to b4.
Knight to b7 is good. Knight to c6 is best.
Bishop captures on f4 is a tactical shot aiming to capture the knight on f4, putting pressure on black's position and preparing to develop the rest of the pieces. This move also opens up the f-file for the rook to potentially use later.
Pawn captures on f4.
Pawn captures on b5.
Pawn captures on b5 is best. This is a trade.
Queen to d3.
Pawn to c6.
Control of the center, preparing to develop other pieces and creating space for the bishop to potentially pin on b4, while also eyeing the black pawn on f5.
Pawn to c5 is excellent. This offers a trade. Knight to d8 is best.
Knight captures on b5 is best.
Bishop to g7 is best. This develops a bishop. This fianchettos the bishop by putting it on a powerful diagonal.
Rook to a7 pinning the knight on b5, preparing to launch a kingside attack and putting pressure on black's position.
Attacking the black pawn on a7, creating a passed pawn and gaining a strong initiative. The rook's placement also puts pressure on the black position, forcing them to respond to the threat.
Knight captures on a7 is best.
Knight to a5 is brilliant. This sacrifices the knight. Queen to a4 is best. This attacks the knight.
Queen to b5 is an accuracy. This move leaves pawn and knight hanging on c3 and a7. An opportunity to take a knight was lost. The opponent can play qxb5. Pawn captures on a5 is best. This captures a higher value piece. This captures a free knight.
Queen captures on b5.
Knight captures on b5 is a strong move, pinning black's knight on pawn to c6 and gaining a strong initiative. It also opens up the b-file for the rook to potentially use later.
Pawn captures on b4.
Knight captures on d6 is the best move.
Knight to c4.
I played knight from file b to d4 to attack black's pawn on pawn to e5 and prepare to develop the rest of my pieces. This move also pins black's knight on c6, making it difficult for them to move without losing material.
Knight to d2 is good. This offers a trade. Pawn to h5 is best.
I played knight captures on d2 to gain a strong initiative and attack black's position, taking advantage of the open d-file and pinning black's knight on d7, preparing to launch a powerful attack on the kingside.
Bishop captures on d4 is the best move.
Knight to c4.
I played bishop to c3 to prepare for the potential pawn storm on the queenside, pinning the knight on pawn to b7 and supporting the central pawn structure. This move also puts pressure on black's position, making it difficult for them to maneuver.
Knight captures on d6 is the best move.
I played rook to d8 to prepare for the potential pawn storm on the queenside, supporting the pawn to b5 pawn and putting pressure on black's position. This move also helps to open up the d-file for my rook to potentially use later.
Rook to c1 is a strong move, attacking black's pawn on pawn to e5 and preparing to potentially push d4, putting pressure on black's position and forcing them to respond to the potential threat.
Bishop captures on b4 is the best move.
I played rook captures on c3 to gain a strong initiative on the queenside, attacking black's pawn on pawn to c5 and preparing to launch a potential pawn storm. The pin on black's knight also makes it difficult for them to defend against my next move.
Pawn to f5 is excellent. This offers a trade. Rook to b6 is best. This attacks the pawn. This move gains a tempo. The game is over. White wins.